What is going on, ladies and gentlemen? It is I, Randy, with RTS Mobile Gaming. We are playing Sea of Conquest, and in today's video, we're talking real quick about 3 different Stormbringer builds. I have done a number of Stormbringer builds here in Season 2 for Sea of Conquest. That is because it's my favorite ship. It is absolutely my favorite hands-down ship. There's so many different builds you can run on it. Therefore, I have tested 3 very different but very similar builds for you today, and we will talk about the results, okay? And by today, I mean I spent the last 4 or 5 days testing all 3 of these builds, and I've come to a lot of conclusions, which I will get to at the end. I'll keep this build video as short as I can, really just focusing high level on how the builds work and then comparing them. Here we go. First, it is a Stormbringer build. Therefore, I am using the canned Stormbringer ship. The best skills on the Stormbringer ship are going to be the Warrior's Fury, giving you rage every time you deal damage to a ship that has damage over time on it. You get a ton of stacking damage over time effects, okay? You get 30% bonus damage over time, and just in general, blazing and drowning damage, okay? This affects all the blazing and drowning damage, 30% after 24 seconds, okay? You also have a chance, okay? After the ship deals damage caused by DOT 10 times, the next damage over time effects will have their duration extended by 2 seconds. This is immense, okay? So tons and tons of damage over time. And lastly, you have attack and damage over time. So this is going to pair really, really nicely with all the different heroes in this build, and we'll talk about why right now. But essentially, the version of the build I'm running right now on my screen is a drowning, burning hybrid. It is a drowning-focused build. All my gear is geared towards drowning. All my gems are geared towards drowning in my season specialization. Okay. I have immense taking on water damage, which is basically the drowning damage, right? That's the damage over time. Immense damage coming out left and right. Absolutely insane. So, in order to make use of that, like I said, you are going to be wanting to run the heroes that deal damage over time effects. In Season 1, you can get Barnacle, but you cannot get Tanaka or Elen until Season 2. So this is really a Season 2 focused build. You can run Burning and Drowning in Season 1, but you're missing the 2 most powerful heroes for those builds, Tanaka and Elen, okay? So this version of the build uses Barnacle. Barnacle is going to do decent damage. He's going to apply a lot of stacks of taking on water, 6 total stacks, okay? And he is going to have a chance that when his ship deals damage, it will deal bonus drowning damage. He will also deal bonus damage every so often, every 8 times that there is taking on water applied, and overall he can reduce the enemy's rage significantly every 10 seconds, okay? He is great. He is going to pair superbly with Elen. Elen is another taking on water drowning damage hero, okay? She does incredible damage. Check out my video that I'm going to post a link for right above, okay? Check out her feature in my video, but she does incredible damage. She applies a little bit of damage over time. Okay, oops, somewhere. She applies a little bit of damage over time at a chance to apply it, and she just does incredible damage that stacks up. Every time she does her ultimate damage, it keeps stacking up. So she does incredible damage and applies dots. Barnacle does great damage and applies dots. Actually, his damage is pretty average, but he applies a lot of dots and reduces enemy rage. And then we have Tanaka. Tanaka is an absolute tank. He is a stud. He is a stallion. He is a murderer. He applies an incredible 10 stacks of burning plus another 5 stacks of burning after he has 7 stacks of foresight for a total of up to 15 stacks of burning when he triggers his ultimate. He also is going to increase, okay? He's going to increase the duration of all damage over time on the enemy ship by 2 seconds, up to 35% chance to trigger that, all right? And as he gains stacks of foresight, he will dramatically increase the damage over time for his whole ship. So now you have 30% damage on the 38% damage from the ship itself, okay? You have 30% damage from Tanaka's foresight. You have Elen, who gives another 7% damage. You have Barnacle, who I don't think he gives too much damage over time. A little bit, okay. Another 4% damage over time. And this doesn't specify for drowning or for burning, which is why this build works with a hybrid build. Now, although my gems are focused on drowning damage, and Elen's trinket is focused on drowning damage, okay, these 2 chain bombs focus on blazing and drowning damage. Therefore, Yes, I am missing about 80% drowning damage bonus to Tanaka, but I'm still getting close to 100% damage bonus to Tanaka's burning. So he's still going to deal incredible damage, apply tons of DOTs, and most importantly, he is going to be extending the duration of all the dots on the target. That includes drowning, the taking on water drowning debuff, okay? So that's how this particular build works. Let's talk about the other version of this build, which I also tested, where we have Elen mixed in here, running the same trinket. I just pulled the trinket off of Tanaka, okay? Let's talk about the difference between the two builds really, really quick. It should be fairly self-explanatory because it's the same gear, the same ship, the same heroes, with one difference being Elen. I no longer have a burning hybrid in this build. Now we have Elen. This is the recommended version of this build by many players who have played this game for a long, long time. Okay, if you go to fast equip heroes on the Stormbringer, these are the heroes that get suggested for the fast equip. So there is something here, but I've got the test results to show you whether it's better or not. So Elen is going to be fantastic. She has good stats overall. She does deal sort of low damage with her ultimate, but where she really shines is she applies 1 stack of taking on water to all 3 opponents for 3 stacks, but she also has a 30% chance every 3 seconds on her ship's basic attack to trigger 2 stacks of taking on water. Now, this is incredible. This is actually her most valuable skill. She might pop an ultimate every 10 seconds and do a tiny little bit of damage and apply a few dots, but really, if she applies 6 to 8 stacks of this over a 10 to 12 second period, you are looking at an incredible amount of damage from that. She also gives a little bit of DOT and drowning damage, okay? So she is not a bad substitute. She is going to help Barnacle and Adeline slightly because they both get bonuses when the ship deals taking on water effects, okay? Barnacle gets a little bit of damage that he deals, and Adeline gets a little bit of damage that she deals because she gets a ton more rage, all right? Therefore, and by a ton, I'm sort of exaggerating a little bit. It's at level 3, it's 6. It's pretty much nothing. But over the course of a long fight, it is a decent amount of rage regen, okay? You combine that with Stormbringer's built-in rage regen from Vargir's Fury, and you are looking at something that's actually pretty interesting. Now, this build is interesting. Let's talk about the burning version of this build, which uses almost the exact same setup, except I'm now going to put Lester here, and I'm going to put Tanaka here, okay? And we are going to equip, just pretend like I equipped all the trinkets. I don't want to go through and change all the gems and trinkets, but essentially we end up with almost the exact same amount of burning bonus damage as we had taking on water bonus damage. And now we have swapped out Barnacle for Lester. We've kept Tanaka from the first version of the build, and what we have here is some incredible synergy because Lester applies a ton of damage over time stacks, up to 9, anywhere from 3 to 9 when he does his ultimate. He can also trigger every 11 stacks of burning. He can trigger another 1 stack of burning on 3 enemy ships, okay? Which is also incredible. This is a 6-second cooldown, and as we already talked about from Tanaka, he's dealing 10 to 15 stacks of burning every time he does an ultimate. So as soon as you have 7 stacks of foresight, every time Tanaka ultimates, you're applying another 3 stacks of burning from Lester, okay? Lester will also, for every 14 stacks, deal a huge amount of bonus damage to all the ships in the target fleet every 15 seconds for every 14 stacks of burning. You see where I'm going with this, right? It's an incredible amount of firepower. In addition, he gives bonus damage over time that stacks. So now we have Lester's, this is approximately 16.8% damage over time, okay, when it has 3 stacks. You combine that with Tanaka, who's going to have the 30%. Now you're at 46.8% damage over time bonus just from Lester and Tanaka. It's going to apply to Adeline's dots that she is inflicting on the enemy. And then, if that wasn't enough, Adeline is still going to get all the bonuses from the ship. Okay, all 38% bonus damage to her abilities from the ship, plus the rage regen. And in addition, Tanaka is going to be extending the duration of her dots by 2 seconds. So we're going to have an incredible amount of burning damage, an incredible amount of drowning damage over time, and overall a ton of thunderclapping damage. Okay, so I have the reports to back up these tests. Again, I have saved some of the cleaner reports. We've been at war for the past few days, so there's been a lot of back and forth. Let me start with the Elen report, which is not this one. Okay, and again, a lot of testing over the past few days. Let's start with the Elen report. This is against my buddy Mr. 2, who I've done lots of testing over the past long time. Okay, this was a decent report where you can see my bait ship function fantastically. It was able to take all the damage and die first. It left my main damage dealers alive. You can see the Stormbringer has a decent amount of HP left, and the enemy is slowly dying. If I continued this fight, I probably would have killed him, but I was breaking off in order to let him continue auto-trading so I can keep testing builds against him, okay? So, how did this build perform? Not too bad. When you look at the overall strength of this drowning build, it really was not too bad, okay? It did significantly more than my strategy and my artillery ships, and dramatically more than my cutthroat build, although cutthroat is more of a hybrid damage and healing build. You can see here with over 5.5 million healing over the course of the fight. But the damage itself was pretty fantastic. Now, Elen, for being a purple hero, pumping out 1.55 million damage is great. Overall performance in this build, okay, we are looking at a combined 7.19 million damage. Obviously, the duration of the fight will vary slightly. Keep that in mind. So this is how that particular build performed. I also had another report that was less attractive, okay, which was this one, where actually Mr. 2 must have procced a few things because he was able to kill this ship faster. Still a similar damage spread here, but overall performed significantly worse against Mr. 2. Because at the end of the day, Elen just isn't putting out that much damage and giving that many benefits to her ship. So that's the struggle we're at with that particular build, okay? Now let's take a look at the hybrid drowning focused with Tanaka, because that performed dramatically better, and I'll show you why. It performed dramatically better. Unfortunately, my ship was also the main target for the enemy cutthroat ship, so its health is dropping, but this build performed dramatically better, and as you can see, similar damage to the first version of the report. However, Adeline's damage is boosted up, and Tanaka's doing more damage than Elen, and he's applying all these bonuses that Adeline is now benefiting from. Adeline is going to benefit greatly from all of the bonus damage over time and the +2 seconds to the dots that Tanaka is assisting with, which makes this a really, really powerful build. Okay, I only got to do 2 tests with this particular build today. I did many tests in straight clashes 3 days ago, but I can't seem to open those reports, unfortunately. But I can tell you that after testing both of these builds in straight clashes over the last 3 days, this build has consistently performed much better than the pure drowning build with Elen, okay? Now that we've talked about which drowning version is better, let's talk about drowning versus burnination. That was less, I thought it was going to, in my head when I did it, I thought it was going to sound way better, and then I did it, and I was like, maybe I should cut that from the video. So if that gets edited out, you'll understand why. If not, thank you for not unsubscribing. Let's find some burning reports. Okay. Okay, so I started, so this is a good example. I started, I guess, or maybe this dude hit me once or twice. I don't know. Something happened here where I dealt a little bit of damage to this dude, and then I killed Mr. 2. And obviously, there'll be a little bit more damage output in this build because I'm actually killing Mr. 2, whereas the other reports, for example, I'm leaving him with 560 troops alive. So I left him with 10% troops alive here. That's this version of the build. Okay, 7.44, 3.4 from Adeline, 1.79 from Tanaka, 1.53 from Barnacle. Then we go into this other build, pure burning hybrid, or burning focused hybrid, I should say, where again we're running the Lester, Tanaka, Adeline version here, okay? And look at the damage, folks! Look at that damage! God, that makes me excited to say that. Look at that! Oh my goodness. This is my favorite build in Season 2. I don't know if you've seen any of my Burning Stormbringer videos, but I love this build. And you should be able to tell why by this video. In fact, Adeline is 2 stars weaker. I leveled her up twice the other day to do some of the drowning testing. She is 2 stars weaker in this video. She popped over 2 million damage. Tanaka, 4.2 million damage. Absolutely astounding. Came in like a Mack truck and delivered the peen. Okay, let's take a look at another report. Why don't we? Go ahead. Let me find a bigger report. Who's in here? Who did I kill in here? Oh, Cloud. This is another great one. Now, he wasn't necessarily attacking me the whole time, which is why I didn't have as many losses. He was attacking some other people in this report. But I did almost all the damage to him in the report. Let's just take a look at this combined report where I zeroed 1, 2, 3. Pretty much killed all 3 of these people. Majority myself. Cloud might have taken a little bit of damage from someone else. Look at this. Look at the damage, folks. 1.49... I guess that's 14.9 million damage. Look at the output. Lester at 4.1, Tanaka 5.8, Adeline 3.5. So again, even though I have more than 100% bonus to my burning, blazing damage through my spec in this build, okay, and actually maybe I'll open that up so you can see it. Can I see the stats? I think I can see the stats now. They added the stats. Let's look at the stats. Okay, and this is before I even had the other bomb. So I got a new trinket yesterday. I upgraded this build. This build is going to be stronger when I switch back to it today. I used this build, I think, this is from two days ago. Incredible. Crit rate, 62. I actually want to boost up my critical strike damage significantly. Burning damage at 124, taking on water damage at 27. So I have just over 90, or about 97% more burning damage than drowning damage. Overall, some strong damage over time buffs. And then, as we saw, we get an incredible amount of regular damage and damage over time. Close to another 90% damage over time bonus overall that affects both drowning and burning from the combined Stormbringer and hero skills. So, even though I'm not focusing drowning, okay, and I'm not going to get Adeline's 6 rage for every taking on water stack, which really isn't a lot, okay, she is still benefiting from an insane amount of bonus damage. She is not benefiting from as much bonus damage as Tanaka, but she is benefiting from an astounding amount of bonus damage from both Lester and Tanaka that will boost her DOTs, okay? So, that is how these builds shake out, guys. Again, I have been testing this, I think probably close to a week, off and on. I've been switching to drowning for, a day or two here and there, then I switched back to the main build for some real PvP, and I switched back to drowning. I did some real PvP with drowning for both builds. I did a bunch of straight clashes, and I can confirm for you, ladies and gentlemen, after almost a week of testing, that out of both drowning builds, the hybrid drowning build with Tanaka has almost every time performed significantly better, because he just gives so much synergy for the taking on water DOT. And as we know, taking on water DOT does double the damage per second as blazing. Drowning does 20% damage per second, and it does 100% damage over 5 seconds, okay? Burning does 10% damage, and it only does 80% damage over 8 seconds. So the damage stacks up twice as fast, okay? It is incredibly high damage, but they're just really, in Seasons 1 and 2, there really aren't any ways to apply enough taking on water stacks to make that advantageous. Instead, you can go with Lester, where you're getting anywhere from 3 plus another 3 plus maybe 6 more stacks. You could be anywhere from 6 to 12 stacks of burning, okay, every 10 seconds with Lester. You have Tanaka, who's dropping 15 stacks of burning every time he pops a frickin' ultimate. So the amount of stacking that they do is incredible. And then they keep extending the duration by 2 seconds. It's fantastic. You end up with people at max stacks very quickly, taking maximum damage, okay? So, that's the video, folks. Hopefully you have enjoyed this. Again, I spent a lot of time testing this just so you could have the results. I'm sorry for the long video. I kept this as short as I could, but we're comparing 3 very significant builds, and I wanted to cover at least the basics of each build. So if you've enjoyed it, like and subscribe. Randy out.